So, the Farm Freedom Act. What's that all about?
It's an interesting thing because, I've always postulated that people are confident or okay with losing freedom as long as somebody else is losing freedoms. So a group that's been really active lately have been organic farmers, because they're running afoul of a lot of government regulations, both at a state and a federal level. So the Farm Freedom Act, for lack of, it's more complicated than this, but basically it's an attempt to try and deregulate a lot of the regulations that you would have if you owned a local farm and you wanted to sell tomatoes to your neighbor. The government wants to regulate that. They want to make sure you're not selling them tainted tomatoes. So,
well, that's what the regulations, that's how they justify the regulations. They justify it by saying we're just trying to keep the food supply safe. Now, it's actually arguable as to whether a lot of those regulations are actually improving the safety of the food. It's not a given that the regulations even do that. If in fact
there's an article, if you're right, and the Farm Freedom Act, there's an article, it's linked to our website at newsguardians.com, and it can be found in that right-wing crazy journal, Slow Grown in Virginia.
Well, we're talking about HB135, which is in the Virginia General Assembly in the House of Delegates. HB135.
Now, I have to say, this is one of the most enjoyable political articles I've read in a long time. In fact, I complimented the author just a few minutes ago via email and let her know I was talking about on the radio today. So we talked about the fact that the food safety thing is a bit of a boogeyman. And I just want to read a little bit of this. I think it's quite well done.
Okay.
Then the opponents had their say, and a line of pasties in dark suits got up to name the many trade groups they represented and proceeded to wave the public safety boogeyman with horror stories of plague and pestilence from unregulated milks and meats. The State Meat Inspection Service had its say as well. The delegates duly noted the concerns of the agribusiness and unanimously voted to table the bill quicker than you can say freedom is dead. The whole vote smacks transparently of a foregone conclusion.
Well, it is. We experienced this during the Jackson campaign last year because the Farm Freedom Bill that was put forth last year, E.W. Jackson supported. It's a liberty issue, and he supported it wholeheartedly. What we discovered was that Farm Bureau, which is they offer insurance to farmers, but they're also a lobby group and an advocacy group for farmers. They don't support farm freedom. It's interesting that the lead advocacy group for farmers in our area is against farmers being free in this way, and we figured out why, and here's why. Because under the regulated setup that they have now, they also offer, if you're willing to be a good little farmer and abide by all these rules, there's all kinds of grants and tax breaks that you can apply for. So what they are focusing on is helping government create these little tax breaks and grants and things, helping the farmers apply for them. They get the government to offer them, then they help the farmers apply for them, so the farmers will look to Farm Bureau as being important in their lives and necessary, so that Farm Bureau can be empowered as a go-between between you and a government that doesn't have the authority to do these things in the first place.
And that's the point that the author makes in here, and I'll quote again, when was the last time a big food processor was truly held accountable for tainted food anyway? What they fear is the fact that when these outbreaks occur in their products, more people start to seek safer food from local sources, and they don't want you to have more freedom to do so. They go on later on in the article to talk about legislators and lobbyists will do what they do as predictably as the sun rises and sets. But my biggest question is, why do Americans fear freedom? If a regular consumer fears the consequences of procuring food from an uninspected farmer, well, is there one place you do have some freedom? They don't buy it there. If you do and get sick, the producer is still one holding the legal liability, and the local producer has a much greater incentive to produce clean, safe food because, unlike the big guys, he won't get off with a lecture thanks to a squadron of lawyers and a big war chest. And it goes on. Thus, we have a system that prohibits buying a steak or a glass of milk from a neighbor you know while bringing you irradiated meat and chemically grown produce, dead milk, and foods that aren't even made from what's pictured on the label, all in the name of protecting us from dangers that, for the lion's share, are only present in the large-scale production models.
We fought Bob Goodlatte a few years ago on the Food Safety Act that was at the federal level, which if you read into it, and we did, you discovered that the federal government was actually trying to turn total authority over all food grown, even your own vegetables in your own backyard garden, to Washington, D.C. All right, don't forget you can read all of the stories and the links to what we talked about today if you go to newsguardians.com, as well as see the video of a Virginia State policeman running down a skateboarder with his police car. That's, if you don't believe it, watch the video, check it out yourself. It's at newsguardians.com. And remember, we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, so come back and see us again. See you in the morning.